we go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Jason and the Argonauts, the classic story of an epic voyage that has been told and retold since the birth of Western civilization, now presented on the screen for the first time.
Pull! Pull! Till your hearts crack and your backs break!
Jason and his band of Argonauts, the mightiest warriors the world of adventure has ever known, in search of the fabulous magic golden fleece.
Where will you find this miracle?
I have heard there is a tree at the end of the world, with a fleece of gold hanging in its branches.
Here is the magnificent excitement of that legendary time when men like gods and gods like men lived and loved violently. Todd Armstrong and Nancy Kovac portray the classic lovers. Jason, the man who challenges the gods. Medea, who betrays a kingdom for love. Acastus, driven by a lust for power. Hera, goddess and woman, who defies the might of Zeus, king of the gods, who unleashes his fury at rebellious mortals. The Argonauts, caught in the clutches of the towering bronze giant Talos. The Argonauts, battling vulturous harpies. Jason, threatened by the seven-headed Hydra. Medea, the temple dancer, mysterious, exciting, and exotic. Jason, battling the army of skeletons.
Kill! Kill! Kill them all!
One man defying a universe of mortal and immortal dangers. Jason and the Argonauts. A search that became a legend.
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your mission commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen. And we are back. Welcome back to Planet 8 Podcast. You're going to notice something a little different this time. Bob's feeling under the weather, so Bob couldn't join us this go-round. We do have our good friend, Billy. During the sensor sweep, Billy's going to share all his social media information, his podcasts, where you can find him, where you can listen to him. Walker and I have recorded with Billy on a couple of occasions and had a great time, and we knew that when Planet 8 was going to start talking about Harryhausen, and we're going to go for the granddaddy of them all. We're going to talk about Jason and the Argonauts today. We had to bring in Billy. Billy, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Larry and Karen. And we well wishes to Bob. Hopefully he feels better soon. Yes. But we talked, I think the last time, Larry, you and I recorded, we talked about an Amicus anthology film. And we got to talking about Harryhausen. And I said about being a huge fan of his work. And you were a huge fan of his work as well, and said you and Karen and Bob love Harryhausen stuff. So we thought, hey, why not get our heads together and talk some Harryhausen?
Exactly. So here we are. And what we'll do is we'll kick it over to Karen to get us started today. Karen?
All right. Well, Jason and the Argonauts came out in 1963. Now, some people, and myself among them, would say that this is probably Harryhausen's best film. There's a lot to love in this movie. Now, it came just after The Mysterious Island. And if you read some of the stuff that is out there on Harryhausen, there was a little disappointment in how The Mysterious Island performed. And so he and his longtime collaborator, Charles Schneer, said, oh, what should we try next then? And they decided, well, let's go back to myth, but let's not do, they didn't want to continue with Sinbad. They said, let's go back to Greek myth. And what could we pull from Greek myth? And they looked at a lot of different stories. But they thought that the Jason story was really interesting. And they thought that there were a lot of different adventures that Jason had that they could really put to good use with Harryhausen's stop motion capabilities. And so they went about, putting a script together. They hired a couple of different folks to work on it. But I think it was, oh gosh, it's not in my notes, but I think it was Beverly Cross was the final script writer on that, who really put all those scenes together that we know so well in the story. And initially they thought they would go to they were going to go to Greece, but that was not going to work out to film. So they said, oh, Yugoslavia is a great place to film. But when they started scoping it out, there were production folks over there, because had been movies made over there before, who were basically trying to kind of scalp them on, they were trying to get too much money from them. So they went instead to Italy, because they had made films in Italy. I think, which film had they, I'm losing my Harryhausen cred here, 50 Million Miles to Earth, or is it?
Yep.
Okay. With the Emir, right? So they had filmed that in Italy. And so they said, well, we know we can go in Italy. There are actually some Greek ruins that had, that were there, and they could film there. And so that's what they decided to do. They went to Italy. They filmed a lot of stuff there. And, that aspect of doing that work there was great. Harryhausen, in the meantime, designed all the creatures. He sends off to his father, his designs. So his dad built the actual armatures that went in the creatures. And they actually had a full-size 92-foot boat built for the Argo. And
it was a fishing boat, and they overlaid the Argo, structure.
But the way they made money back on that was when they were done filming it, they sold it to 20th Century Fox, and it was used in Cleopatra.
So kids, go watch Cleopatra and see if you can pick out the Argo.
So,
Walker, real quickly, I just wanted to mention one of the cool things with Harryhausen and Schneer. Harryhausen would come up with all these drawings of, hey, let's have a Hydra, and it can do this, and so they'd have the idea of what kind of creatures. Let's have some harpies, and so they'd build whoever was going to write the script around those ideas.
Right.
So Harryhausen could start building, a Cyclops or a harpy, or whatever was going to be used in whatever collaboration those guys were working on. Which is a unique way of, they don't do that anymore, Now it's like a story and a script and a script and a script and a rewrite.
So we can, and I don't want to take up too much more time. So that, things to keep in mind for people, and as we talk about this movie, is everything was practical. This is long before CGI. So, all the stuff with the actors was practical, and Harryhausen had to match up all that animation to the practical work that they filmed, and they had to plan it intricately. And I think that's something that really stands out. but yeah, they wanted to go and they wanted to do a really fantastical film, move it back into mythology and bring in the gods and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's also one of the things that's really appealing about this film is that it really shifts back into the fantasy element. It's not, and nothing to say, I like Mysterious Island. I like some of the other films he did that aren't necessarily mythological or what, but I do think that that fantasy element is where he's best suited.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Valley of Guanji. I love the 50,000, miles to Earth. Those creatures, anything Harryhausen does, Beast from 50,000 Fathoms,
right.
Invasion of the Saucermen. We could go on and on, but there's something about watching, and let me tell you, if you kids haven't seen Jason and the Argonauts, it's out there. Go find it, watch it. We're going to be spoiling the heck out of it. I'm going to say the Hydra is one of my favorite scenes. I do love the children of the Hydra, the skeletons. And I was reading that Harryhausen was actually there when, they're directing the actors, swing left, swing right. And Harryhausen's making these beats. Okay, when you hear the beat, this is when the, skeleton's going to attack from the left or attack from the right. Because when he goes into animate and overlays over the live action, which is done weeks, if not months later, he has to match that up to
right.
What they're doing. And then the music, we'll get into the music later, but this is an amazing film. Billy, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I always hesitate to say a film is perfect or a 10 out of 10 because I feel like somebody will say, well, there was this one little plot hole,
right.
And they'll kind of, make me look like an ass. But I will say, honestly, I can't really nitpick anything about this film. I think it's fantastic. And like you guys said, when you're looking at the constraints of trying to make an epic fantasy film in 1963 with no computers, no CGI, no AI, nothing, it's just amazing to me what was put on film there. It blows my mind. I mean, the first Harryhausen film I actually saw, believe it or not, was Clash of the Titans. And that was the first movie I had ever seen in an actual movie theater as well. I'd been to the drive-in many times to see Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, tons of Disney films, all sorts of films, great films. But actual theater, I can still remember my aunt taking me to see Clash of the Titans and then seeing Harryhausen's name up there, and not at that point not knowing who he was and thinking, wow, that's a different name, Harryhausen. And then starting to, go to the library, there's a book about him, something like that. You find out this guy was just this revolutionary creator of this stop motion. And I can't remember which film it is, but one of them I have on DVD where it showed his process. You could probably go to YouTube and just find it, and it's showing his process of just painstakingly moving these little, like inch by inch and photographing it and then putting it all together. It's just like, how did the man have the patience to do that? I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah, it's insane. And when you consider, like, especially in this film, think about the scenes with the Hydra, where you get 7 heads and all the tails on the back, or the skeletons that chase Jason and his men. And he's animating with each of those. Like the skeletons have arms and legs and heads, or the Hydra has, all those heads that are moving. And he says that he really didn't keep notes. He said, sometimes I might write a note or two, but pretty much he just relied on memory. And he was like, that's why, like, if the phone was ringing, I just didn't answer it. It's like, I didn't want to be pulled away because I had to keep, he had to each one had to be moved, and then click, moved, click, move, the amount of focus and concentration that man, and it's one guy doing it. You think about now with special effects, I think even if somebody was doing stop motion now, whether you had like a Dennis Muren or somebody like that, they would probably have assistants, and they'd probably say, okay, you remember this guy, you remember this guy, I'm working on this. They might have somebody taking notes or still photos or no, he's just plugging away by himself doing all that. It's like mind-blowing that he could do that, and it's seamless. I mean, I was watching yesterday, and I was watching, like, does anything ever look like it's stuck or stuttering or no, it's just flowing. Beautiful.
There was
It's
a
good
video
today.
interviewing a Harryhausen, and like with the Hydra, he'd have to keep notes that he'd number the heads. The third head leaned back, the fourth head tilted right, to be able to, and each frame of film is seconds. So boom, 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 boom. A day would have, maybe gotten him a couple minutes worth of film.
Well,
And just imagine, the fight scene is going to take like 5 minutes. That's weeks, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
months.
oh, but he said like sometimes with some of them, he would only get a couple of seconds of film because, with something that busy like the Hydra, he's got so many movements every time. Yeah,
He
it's
was
just
he was he
insane.
wasn't complaining, but he was commenting that the harpies in this movie were the bane of his existence because he'd string them on fishing wire and try to film it in a way that it wouldn't show up on film, and to try and steady the harpies. And he'd draw out, he wanted them to swoop down, and he'd have to alter the way that the wings flapped forward, that the legs would attack the blind person. And he'd swing his stick at a certain angle, and he'd have to art. It's like not just art, it's a lot of math.
Yeah, it's amazing, amazing, amazing accomplishment when you look at everything he did in his lifetime. It's just unbelievable.
And I say this a lot, but I think this film holds up today. It. I can't tell you how many times I've watched this, and I thoroughly enjoyed from start to finish. There's treason, there's treachery, there's heroism. Hercules shows up in this film
Yeah.
for a bit. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I really wonder if you set like an 8-year-old kid down in front of the TV and you put the disc in for this, I think they're going to be thoroughly entertained and they're going to wonder like how are they doing this? And like that harpy scene, they're unraveling his belt. They pull his belt
Yes.
off. And you watch that and you're like, it's unreal. But that's like the beauty of Harryhausen's stop motion work is that on some level your brain knows like this isn't real, but it transcends reality, because it's fantasy. Like it's just somehow it's like, well, of course, magical creatures would look like this. This is what they would look like. You can it in some ways it portrays the fantastic better than any CGI because CGI is going for realism, but he's not. Harryhausen isn't going for realism. He's going for the bigger than life.
Yeah, there's something that the human brain can pick out pixels. And I'll tell you, of all the CG, Gollum in the Lord of the Rings trilogy was superb. I mean, it's just about flawless. But even that being said, the brain, even like Star Trek, or you know, it's a projection, it's artificial, it's not tangible, it's not real, and Harryhausen, even though they were miniatures, just brought life to them. And they're mythological creatures. So yeah, maybe that's what a harpy looked like. I mean,
Mhm.
the beauty of reading this story, and Bill, you made a great point, is that you watch a film like this and you're like, well, let me go find some books on Jason and the Argonauts, whether it's the making of the film or the actual story that the film was based on. And we all need, Karen has Echoes from the Satellite, which discusses books. But when you're reading a book, you're putting your imagination to work to figure out, how did this Hydra sound? How did this Hydra look? What was it like being on the Argo, and all that, fun stuff. Here's Harryhausen and company showing us what the adventure would look like. And, starting with Talos.
Mm.
I mean, that was just so cool. And they've interviewed Harryhausen where, they had to decide, was he gonna, walk around like the Colossus of Rhodes, like a big statue, or he's bronze. So maybe let's have them kind of stiff and give them some, metal kind of, rusty moving sound, and it works. It works. At
Yeah.
no time did Talos had to say, "You have stolen from my temple," or no dialogue whatsoever. He was, and the Colossus of Rhodes, that shot that they have of Talos over the strait as they're trying to escape made me think of that, and whether that was an intentional homage or
Yeah,
not,
it was.
it was beautiful. And he reaches down and he grabs the Argo, and the kids are like flying out. Ah!
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, Talos for me and the skeletons are, I feel like those are the two best things he ever did for me.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, like you said, you watch it and you're like, how did they even do this kind of stuff? And you can read up and find out how they did, but especially if you're a kid, you're gonna just be amazed by this. Like Karen said, I think you could sit a kid down these days in front of the television to watch this, and they would be amazed. It's just unreal. And Harryhausen's work ethic, I can't imagine. I'm sure at some point he didn't feel well, got sick, or this or that, but he had to, do that, and he would stand there and, like I said, move it, click, hundreds, thousands of times, and then to only maybe see 2 minutes of it on the screen. That's an incredible work ethic from that man.
Absolutely. And they've made comments before his daughter that the kitchen would smell horrible because he's baking these armatures in their oven in the kitchen. His dad would work on the metal framing, and they used one of the skeletons from Seventh Voyage.
Yeah.
And so his dad made 6 more, so that's you see 7 skeletons, Jason and the Argonauts fight at the end of the film. But the amount of and at this point it truly is a lost art form. There's not a lot of special effect houses that do stop motion. Famously, Spielberg was looking at doing stop motion dinosaurs for Jurassic Park, but then ILM was like, well, we think we can do digital, and
Yeah.
they could,
There
they
it goes.
did, and that pretty much took care of stop motion. Well, with Harryhausen it was called Dynamation.
Dynamation. Now they also had some decent acting in this. I mean,
Oh
it
yeah.
wasn't. You didn't have like maybe huge names in this film, but I think the actors that we did have in it did a good job. It's kind of funny though because two of the main stars had their voices dubbed in the film. And I didn't really know that until I started reading up on it. So the dubbing was actually quite good. But yeah, Todd Armstrong, who played Jason, who's your typical kind of sturdy hero, was
He's an
dubbed.
American actor.
Yeah, and I guess the feeling was, he's surrounded by British actors, and they wanted to make him sound not British, but a little less like local yokel American. So they gave him a little higher edge voice. And then Nancy Kovac, who is our Star Trek connection. Yes, there's always a Star Trek connection. So as Medea, she also was dubbed, but she was also, you remember, either you remember who else she played in Star Trek?
I do not.
It's going to take me a minute. I'm going through episodes. Go ahead, Walker.
You got it, Billy?
No, I have no idea.
The Canutu woman in Private
That's
Little
right.
War, the
Oh, right.
priestess who
I just watched that too.
brings Kirk back.
Mhm.
Yeah, so she was a popular lady back in the 60s.
Walker,
And
the actors who dubbed, they were uncredited in the film.
in the film, right?
Yeah, and I read somewhere that the actor who plays Jason, he found out when he's watching the film, and that's not his voice up on the big screen. It's like, what the heck?
That's a hell of a way to.
Well, famously, didn't that happen to Darth Vader, I think, with Star Wars? I don't think he knew about that till the last minute as well. The guy that
David
actually played
Prowse.
Prowse, yeah.
Well, the the composer for 2001, the guy who thought he was composing the music for 2001, didn't discover that Stanley Kubrick just went with like original orchestral scores for things until he got there to the movie and heard it. So, it happens.
Flash Gordon, Sam, can't think of the actor, got into a disagreement with Dino De Laurentiis, and he's like, "Screw you," and he dubbed all his dialogue.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, a
But,
lot of
they
familiar
had,
faces there, right? A lot of familiar faces in this one.
yeah.
One of the things I appreciate, the actor who plays Hercules, in this day and age, you're going to find a Lou Ferrigno or an Arnold Schwarzenegger, or, an actor's going to bulk up for 6 months before they play, Captain America or, Batman. This guy was a tall guy, rugged looking, but by no means did he have a Herculean physique.
No.
Matter of fact, he had a lot of gray hair.
Yeah, they kind of went with this idea of an older Hercules.
But the beauty of it is he carried himself and acted as though he were Hercules, and so it worked.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting that Jason thought that he would get a crew composed of athletes. He didn't even get like soldiers. It was like, well, I'm going to hold these contests and I'll get the best athletes, in Greece, and then I'll turn them into sailors. But they'll also have to be soldiers to go out and fight these creatures that we encounter on the way. So on one hand, it was like he was sort of like, screw you, Zeus, I don't need your help to get a ship and sailors, but it was pretty unconventional way to get a crew, and one might question the logic behind it. But
well, I know in a lot of Greek mythology, the challenges to Zeus, who's the All Father, the father of the gods, and that, in fact, some of the stories, we don't need you, Zeus. We are strong. We are smart. We are able.
Oh, sure.
And maybe this was just their way to kind of, because I don't know that Jason necessarily knew he was going to run into harpies and maybe he thought there was a Hydra because of myth, but certainly not the children of the Hydra. So, in hindsight for Jason, maybe that wasn't the best way to pick his Argonauts. One of the things that struck me is on the ship as they're rowing and the sun is beating down on them. And the first mate says, well, will you put lime on their hands? Why put lime on their hands? It helps them not blister. Jason was oblivious to this, what I would think would be a known fact for a sailor, to help the crew. So then he tells them, well, go put lime on their hands. And, but the sun, and they were running out of water. The sun's beating down on them.
I was going to say that. Yeah, water.
He spoils one of his, he can only talk to Hera 4 or 5 times, and she always cautions him, Jason, I can only help you a number of occasions.
Do you want to use your lifeline now?
Yeah, basically. And he uses them all before they leave the island of Talos. I mean, it's like,
yeah, like you said too, they didn't even take enough water. They're out at sea for 3 days and like, well, we're out of water. I'm like, man, that was poor planning there.
Well, I'll quote Jar Jar Binks. What's the use of thinking?
But you're right. I mean, the big theme through it was sort of like we don't need the gods. And he even says at some point later on, did I write that down? He says something like, there'll be a day where, he says, the gods are cruel. In time, all men will learn to do without them. I think, I do think that was a theme they were pushing. And then I was thinking, well, what is it, 1963? I don't know. What does that connect to in 63? Is this something that we're, saying religion is passe or what? But it was kind of an interesting.
I don't know that they were
interesting way to go.
I don't, and I could be wrong. I don't know that they're necessarily reflecting on the times so much as going with Greek mythology.
Could
Ultimately
be.
they didn't need the gods anymore. And even though he said that, though, every time he got to go to Hera and ask a favor, he sure did.
He's well, he took the help when he got it. Maybe it's just the idea of and they're kind of transplanting the Greeks to like Americans and the rugged individual. Like we're going to go out there, we're going to go get this thing, we're going to do this. And on one hand, he's like, we don't need the gods, but then like, you know, okay, Hera,
Help out.
you have any advice here? Like,
Walkie, this kind of reminds me of a conversation we had a long time ago, where I was like, I think humanity reverse engineered the iPhone and the MacBook and all our technology going back to Roswell to the crashing in Roswell. You're like, what? That just takes away from humankind's ability to learn and create and stuff like that. It was a great conversation we had, but this is kind of like, yeah, do we need the gods? I don't know, but
well, after the last few years, I might be more inclined to see things your way. So,
you had mentioned Zeus there as well, and I love the actor that played Zeus in this, Niall McGinnis. My favorite role is Night of the Demon. He was the bad guy there, the villain in that movie. As a great.
oh, he was in that too. Yeah, there were a number of characters who were really recognizable. The guy who played Argus, the shipbuilder, who was later, walking around in his diaper on the ship. And
I was like, I really didn't need to see Lawrence Naismith in a diaper, but here we are.
It was really hot on that ship, kids.
Sweaty men in diapers. Not so much.
They were there, plenty.
Yeah. And
That's
Hermes.
how we roll in Greece, all right? I mean, you just,
Yeah, Hermes, also Michael Gwynn. I feel like I've seen him in a lot of things.
Some
And of
Hammer
course,
films.
and then of course Patrick Troughton. I don't know. Troughton as Phineas was a Doctor Who for many years. Have you ever read about him and his life? I looked him up, and he's a very interesting gentleman, is one way you could put it. He was married and had 3 kids, and then decided to essentially start another family with another woman, and maintained both families.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe he was, Mormon or.
I don't know.
Maybe he's a masochist. I don't know.
Could have been in a different timeline. His TARDIS.
Yeah, maybe he thought he was jumping around in the TARDIS. I think it was before that. But anyway, if you're so inclined, anyone can look him up and read about his life.
Jasmine loves this program called Sister Wives, so I think I can get her to watch Doctor Who if I bring that up.
Yeah, he was in, I can't remember which one it was, if it was Scars of Dracula, maybe one of the Hammer films, where he was Dracula's lackey.
Right.
And then, of course, famously, he was in The Omen as well. That's one that he was in that's, pretty famous. He's, great actor.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, and Honor Blackman, who played Hera, of course, was in Goldfinger, yeah. So I thought she was particularly good in that role as Hera. She was sort of what you would expect as like a goddess, sort of not aloof, but she was sort of noble, but then her, I don't know, sort of compassion towards Jason was really interesting. And then they kind of, at the end, when she seemed almost jealous when he was kissing Medea, was like that little dig there of like, oh, maybe she had fallen in love with a mortal. Who knows? Kind of interesting.
Very vexing.
So when did we all see this? I'm assuming we all saw this as children. Although obviously this was, I don't know, Billy, was this not your first Harryhausen film. I take
No,
it.
I'm almost positive I saw some of the other films of Harryhausen's there, the Sinbad films on television before I saw this one, for sure. But I remember seeing this at a pretty young age, 10 or less. And again, you're a kid,
Mhm.
you're seeing this stop motion by this guy, you're just mystified by it. How did he do this? Wow, that looks great. Like they would keep my attention easily for the, 80, 90 minutes, whatever they were. No question.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Walker? When was your first introduction to this?
I know I saw this
Or
on
when was your first
TV.
Harryhausen? And then when was Jason?
I don't know exactly which was my first Harryhausen. My first Harryhausen was on TV. I know my first Harryhausen in the theater was Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and oh boy, did I beg to go see that. Oh my God, I begged so much. Um, it was summer. It was still in the theater. I think it had maybe come out a little before summer, and my cousins were in town, and I was like, oh, can we go see this? I don't think anybody wanted to see it except, well, I'm pretty sure nobody wanted to see it except me.
Wow.
And
Loser.
but I was the youngest, so sometimes I could get away with stuff like, and I just sat there with my jaw dropped, watching it, with my milk duds and just like, oh, because when you get to see Harryhausen on a big screen, it's just, and that, Kali and it was like,
Mm.
wow, that just blew my mind. I mean, I knew about it though, because, I'd seen, we were lucky and we had, where I lived in California, we got the LA channels. So we had like 2 or 3 different stations that would show monster movies. So I'd already seen, Jason and Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and what else? Probably, Earth versus the Flying Saucers and all that stuff. So I was all primed and ready to go. And yeah, and then I know I saw Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger in the theater. Now I sound like Bob. Bob is usually the one saying, "Well, I saw this in the theater when it came out," so I can say I saw
Days of the
Sinbad.
Saucermen.
And then I saw, yeah, Clash of the Titans in the theater too. That was another one that I got to see. So I feel lucky I got to see like 3 Harryhausen films in the theater before he stopped making them.
When I was a young lad living in San Francisco, my mother took me to see um, the Golden Voyage of Sinbad with the centaur and Walker was
Mm-hmm.
saying, Kali, and
Yeah.
I too was just like, I often talk about the TV show Mad Men, and Draper takes his son to see Planet of the Apes, and at the end of Planet of the Apes, when they reveal the Statue of Liberty, his little boy is sitting there 5 minutes after the credits roll, and you just Jesus. That was me watching, Kali and Jesus. I had no idea it was Dynamation. I'm like, how the hell did they put actors in these suits?
Yeah.
Because at that it wasn't the first run. Obviously it was playing at the Coronet or whatever, and I was a big fan of like the banana splits, and there were people in costume, like college football mascots. But my little brain couldn't figure that out. So my mom also took me to see the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad,
Oh,
and
wow.
the music to that movie to me is just you can't have one without the other. I love Jason and the Argonauts, but I think Seventh Voyage is my favorite of the Harryhausen films. And then yeah, Invasion of the Saucermen. Um, it came from beneath. The octopus. All of that in San Francisco Bay Area. Bob and I always talk about the Bob Wilkins Creature Feature Show,
Mm.
later hosted by John Stanley. But he would show the Harryhausen films, and he'd show you like pictures and of what you were going to see, and he'd talk about it, and it was such a great show. the first Harryhausen film I saw on my own in a movie theater. John Stanley, who took over for Creature Features, had it at the Grand Lake, and it was Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. And Jane Seymour.
Oh boy.
Yeah, still have that boy crush on Jane Seymour. And even the baboon, I didn't know that it was a stop motion baboon. It was. We're gonna have you on for a number of Harryhausen shows, I think, Billy.
Yeah, the baboon playing cards. I think it's like, wow.
No.
Yeah, just
chess. He was playing chess.
Chess, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Blew my mind. But yeah, what go ahead, Walker.
I was thinking about in Jason, there's some things that they did that he wanted to animate and they couldn't, like the Triton, the clashing rocks, and they got the actor in there. I still think that looks cool. I still like the way they did it because they kind of sped up they shot the film at, like, I guess, high speed, so he's moving kind of slower which is cool because it looks like he's just huge and he's moving slow.
It's the Godzilla
the
effect.
rocks. Yeah, but originally, he wanted to animate a giant guy, but then you get that great shot underneath his arm where the ship's passing underneath, and even that to me is still really magical. I watch it and sometimes I wonder, it's like, oh, is it just because I grew up with these movies that I have a filter that I can't remove, and I love it so much that I'm just like, oh my God, look at, they're going under the giant Triton and
with his
the
tail
rocks.
kind of half out of the ocean.
But to me, that's just brilliant. They realize, like, oh, it's going to take way too long. It's going to be too hard for Ray to animate this. Let's just have a dude come in. We'll put him in a tank. They said they had guys. The rocks were like, the cliffs were styrofoam and they were on inner tubes. And there were guys on either side just pushing them. But, you solve things that way, right? You just like, oh, what can we do in a reasonable amount of time with the money we have, right? I don't know. It worked for me,
Yeah,
it's like,
certainly did. It was a great effect, great practical effect. And budgets being what they were, I had read that they financed this themselves. Columbia was going to do the distribution, but they put up the money for this. I guess Seventh Voyage was really good to them financially, and so
yeah, it could be. I think this cost $3 million, which was probably a heck of a lot of money back then.
I read 2.5. No, it cost them 3.5, and they made 2.5, so they lost about $1 million.
Wow.
On the film initially. By now, I'm
well, yeah, I'm
hopefully
sure
the estates of Schnur and Harryhausen have recouped the loss, but
yeah, I actually just last evening spoke to someone about my favorite sci-fi film of all time, Forbidden Planet, and it really didn't make a whole lot of money, but I thought, just the IP and Robbie the Robot, figures have probably made $10 million. So over the course of its life, it has made a ton of money.
Billy, and it's so funny because there's such reverence in our fandom for like something like Robbie the Robot, and to think that they just threw Robbie the Robot and would change his parts in whatever film or even TV shows. I mean, he was in a Twilight Zone at least once,
right?
Maybe
Lost in Space,
right? And and it's like, now I don't know if he's in the Smithsonian or a private collection, but there's this reverence around this robot that back then they were like, meh,
Well, yeah. So
Argo,
many things.
let's sell it over to Elizabeth Taylor's production.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like that with so many things, right? That nobody knew that people would still care about any of this stuff 5, 10, 20, 60 years later.
Right. We did a memorial podcast for Bob Burns, who passed away in December.
Yeah.
And I found my copy of is it Beast Wishes? And the stuff that he had in his home that were gifted to him. And I'd forgotten Debbie Reynolds for years tried to make a museum of Hollywood memorabilia, the ruby red slippers and all this stuff, and there was just little or no interest. I don't know what they're going to do with Bob's stuff. I know there's a trust, but I hope that they're able to preserve it and not, it doesn't go to this, four winds like Forrest J. Ackerman's collection.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Yeah, but I know that the Harryhausen archives have all of the armatures that are still in existence. Ray would cannibalize some armatures to create new armatures for, the next film. So at least that's still there. So the Medusa, the Kraken, I think the armature for the Cyclops is still in existence. A lot of the latex, the foam or whatever it is that they put over the metal armature, though, it starts to fade over time and kind of break down. That's what happened to King Kong. And Mighty Joe Young. Let's give a little credit. Harryhausen got started with Mighty Joe Young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with Willis O'Brien.
Willis O'Brien, and he'd wanted to work with Willis O'Brien as a kid, and there's some film that Harryhausen did of little animatronics as a kid, and to work for Willis O'Brien, and it's reported that Harryhausen did most of the work on Mighty Joe Young, or at least the bulk work.
Well, there's some signature things, I think, with Harryhausen in that he always gave his creatures a lot of personality, right? You see a lot of expressions and, things from them. It's funny because reading about when he did Talos, he said he had to kind of do the opposite of what he normally does because this was a mechanical man, and so he had to be kind of unemotional, he said, until the death scene, and then he's grabbing his throat and wailing and stuff.
It's about the only
But
time we got a sound from him.
Yeah, so he was kind of expressionless, and so he had to make stiff movements instead of fluid movements, and keep him the opposite of what he tried to do with all of his other creatures.
Makes me think of the Cyclops when he's barbecuing the little guy and his tongue's like.
That's great. Great scene. Fantastic.
Do you have a favorite Harryhausen creature from all of his work? Or is that too hard?
Yeah, for me, it's the skeletons. It's got to be them from this movie. They're my favorite. That's my favorite scene. They're my favorite for sure.
It's a good one.
I'll say the skeletons as well. I mean, I love the Medusa. And the Cyclops, and probably the Kraken. I mean, God, I could go on. The troglodyte. It's hard. What about you, Walker? Do you have a favorite or a top three or?
Yeah, it's tough. I like Talos a lot. But I do love that Kali too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so hard, right? They're all so good,
They're all so good.
It's hard to just pick and choose, which ones are your favorites.
Yeah. Probably
Or
all
the Emir. The Emir is really good too, and that goes back a ways.
Yeah. And the elephant that he fought, as a kid, I cried. I was so upset that he killed the elephant. I thought it was a real elephant. Yeah, what a body of work. But with this film, I will say the Hydra, amazing, just Jason chopping at the right head and then, stabbing it and the tail as it died. And I mean, even if they did CGI of that, I don't think it would look as good or work as well. Just amazing.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head before too in saying that when you had a lower budget and you had to do practical effects, it kind of forced you to be more imaginative and things like that. Where now, when you can just have a computer do something for you, animation wise or creature wise, it's not. I feel like there was just more heart in it then, and you can see Harryhausen, his fingerprints all over those things because it was so difficult to do that, and his imagination had to just run wild to be able to do those things. It's just amazing to me. Like I said, the man is a saint.
Well said. Well said. Let me bring up this before we go further. Bernard Herrmann.
Oh yeah.
When I think of the Argo, dun dun dun. Oh, Walker, awesome.
Yeah, it's a good score. I don't think it's as good as the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, but it's still a very good Bernard Herrmann score.
Well, I'll say, yeah, the Seventh Voyage, front to back, start to finish. But with Jason and the Argonauts, the skeletons, the children of the Hydra, the whole introduction.
Dun, 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 dun.
I mean, it just built it.
Yeah.
Interesting note with Bernard Herrmann, he also scored Psycho, and with Psycho, there's no percussion; it's all strings, and it was meant to make you feel, humans love a percussion. It's a heartbeat. No percussion in Psycho. In Jason and the Argonauts, it's all horns. There's a harp, and that's about it. There's no strings in the soundtrack for Jason and the Argonauts. Drums, horns, a harp, and that's about it. So it's interesting the thought process that he put into scoring these different films. And he's done a ton of work. He's done television, he's done films. I'm sure the interwebs have a lot of his stuff you can purchase for download or streaming or whatnot. But that physical media is worth its weight in gold, Walker.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking for my copy and it's buried somewhere.
This is from Entrada. And I don't remember how long ago I got this, quite a while ago. This is actually from 1999, so I've had this quite a while. But yeah, those, all of his scores. Well, I mean, Bernard Herrmann's just great, but his scores for the Harryhausen films are really, really nice. You just hear them and you automatically go, oh, that's the scene with, this or.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I saw on his page here, he did a lot of work with Hitchcock too, and just like movie after movie this guy did was like, well, and again, sometimes you don't think of the music when you think of a movie, but when you really try to think about it, like, oh yeah, like you just said, sometimes these scenes in these movies, if you just hear that music, the scene will pop right into your head, and that's a great music score.
What's fun to watch is Bela Lugosi, Dracula. No music whatsoever. And and it's a classic, and we accept it, but what if there was a theme for Dracula? What, would that have enhanced that film? And think about films now, Jaws without the would it have worked? It's kind of interesting to think about how scoring and the music in a film
really enhances,
yeah. A vital part of movie magic.
For sure.
So, I tell you, if there was a collectible or an item from this film that you can add to your private collection, just one item, what would it be, Billy?
Oh boy. That's a tough one, but I will say I wouldn't mind having well, not life size, but an original GI Joe size Talos, like the big foot tall guy.
They've done Ultraman. Bob in his collection has like these huge Ultraman.
That's awesome.
What about you, Walkie?
What I want to have. Argus in his diaper. No.
Yeah.
No, I think at one time I had a little talus, but I think it was only like 8 inches tall. Um, they made some nice. X Plus made some nice figurines for years. I
X
have a
Plus and
few.
X Plus did the small ones. Gentle
Yeah,
Giants did some vinyl.
Mm.
yeah.
This is a not part of the sensor suite, but this is a an X Plus
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
little
Little hidey
those of
there.
you not on YouTube should be on YouTube because I'm showing the little two-headed chick from Seventh
The
Voyage of Steam.
Rock,
The
right?
The rock
Rock.
creature, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All my X Plus are buried in the garage somewhere.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I'd probably want either a nice version of Talos, or maybe a really good, like, I don't know, somewhere around 8 inch tall statue of one of the skeletons, something like that.
Life-size Hera from the ship for me. I'm put in a corner and be like, should I go out today? Is it raining? What are the chance of and I'd hook up like a Bluetooth for Alexa so it could tell me.
Have a voice.
I don't know if I would go out today. There's a flood warning in the coastal area.
Mm, yeah, that would be great.
Billy, Karen and I have known
Okay.
each other for decades, and one of the things I love to do is surprise Karen with either answers or subjects, and I just got her.
Yeah,
By
you
the way, she's
did.
just shaking her head like only Keiko's.
It's like, oh my God, there he goes again.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't go wrong. Any of the creatures in this one would be great to have, even just a bust of it or something like that.
there absolutely. Speaking of, was it X Plus? Yeah, it was X Plus. Did the statue of the ghouls from Eye of the Tiger.
Mm.
Red, green, and blue eyes. And I got that and I had it in my office for the longest time because it was cool, but also to remind me to take the time to do a good job. And that, that's what it's here in my home office now. I'm looking
How
at it
does it remind you to do a good job? Pray
because
tell.
Harryhausen would take his time to animate
Um,
those figures. I mean, now I have a
okay.
ton of Harryhausen things, the Cyclops, the dragon from Seventh Voyage, but that just signified to me, take your time because he could have, done whatever, and they would have been like, so yeah, that's and I found it. It was buried in the back wall space, so I proudly and happily put it back on display. But yeah, any last minute thoughts about this film or Harryhausen in general before we get into our censor suite?
No, I just like Karen said too. I would urge anybody who hasn't seen it, or if hey, you have kids and you saw it when you were a kid, put it on. You can find a DVD copy cheap somewhere. Just throw it on and
Oh,
have
absolutely.
your kids watch it. Don't think it's because it's from 1963. It's not amazing because it is.
Absolutely. Well said, Billy. Well said.
Yeah.
All right, kids. Well, this is the part of our show we get into our censor suite. Billy, you're our guest. So, usually we'll share something that we recently purchased or was gifted to us, or Karen, I'm sure we'll talk about Echoes from the Satellite. But Billy, you want to clue in our viewers on where they can find you outside of Planet 8 and in our production notes or in our description of the episode, Karen will list all those links as well. But just give them a little idea of what you're up to, what you're into, and where they can find you.
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Magazines and Monsters, and it's basically a love letter to classic monster movies, horror movies, sci-fi movies, and comic books. The two loves of my life. It's fantastic stuff. I can't get enough of those things. I have a really huge focus on comics, especially in the Bronze Age. Loved the content during that era. I thought it was the perfect era for comic books. And then movies, I talk about everything from Universal to Hammer, a lot of Hammer and Amicus. I'm a big fan of British horror. It's my favorite kind of horror is British horror, as both of you can attest to. But yeah, that's where I kind of hang out, and I do float around the social medias as well. You can find me on most of the major ones, Doc Strange, or look for magazines and monsters as well. And it's always good to have you two guys on. Karen, I think you and I have recorded together. Oh my gosh, probably 10 times, a dozen times maybe.
At least, yeah.
And Larry, you and I have recorded a few times now too as well. We always have a blast too. I just like to have a good time talking about comics or monster movies with like-minded folks like you all. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Billy. We're happy to have you. And yeah, you're awesome. Your podcast is awesome and very informative and fun. And we all know there's a lot of podcasts out there, but when you can get fun and information out of it, that's always a plus. Waki, what you got for us?
Well, let's see. Yes, I'm still doing Echoes from the Satellite. The last episode you were on, Larry. We talked about Star Trek 3, specifically Star Trek 3, the making of book, which was a lot of fun going through that book and talking about it. It's just a beautiful book with a lot of great information. And oddly enough, yesterday I got a message on in the comments section from the writers of the book, John and Maria Jose Tenuto, and they just said thanks for reviewing the book. So that was great. Always nice to.
That's awesome. That made my day when you text that to me. I'm like, you have to do that. A lot of people they just, but that was awesome.
So that was neat. And I'll be moving forward. I think probably next on the horizon is maybe doing another sword and sorcery post, which seemed to do really well last time. So maybe looking at some Conan, and just been doing that. So that's my little side gig away from Planet 8.
Nice. Have either of you started watching Wonder Man on Disney Plus?
I have not.
I saw 2 episodes, so I'm sure I'll get back to it. But
I'm 2 episodes into it also, and I love Ben Kingsley as Trevor, and it's interesting to see a little different version of Trevor. So we'll see. He's one of my favorite actors. So we'll see how that goes. I've still been watching Fringe, the J.J. Abrams TV show, and surprisingly, and we always talk about, the Invaders, so-and-so starred in that. Oh, did you know so-and-so was in this episode of The Twilight Zone? Chadwick Boseman was in an episode of Fringe.
Yeah, I noticed
forgot.
that.
Yeah,
when I did the rewatch last year, and that was funny.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow. I watched an episode this morning, and I don't know if it's just because life happening around me, or the episode, it was Astrid meeting Astrid, and a couple of man tears manifested with that little discussion between the two Astrids. What else? What else? This is from Star Ace. You can find them on the interwebs.
Star Ace.
Star Ace. And
Is
by
it
no
a
means
store or
online. This is from Sideshow, actually.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So not
nice.
The original. Those of you on YouTube, I'm now showing 3 of the skeletons from Jason and the Argonauts. One with his head and maybe a piece of his shoulder coming out. One full soldier with sword and shield. Oh, and one of the things we forgot to mention is on the skeletons, the shields were creations of Harryhausen from various stop motion creatures that he did over the years. And there's a third skeleton almost up to his waist coming out. But these bad boys are beautiful. You get a chance to find one. It's an investment. But the great thing about Sideshow is you can make these nice little $50, $40 payments for like, however many months. So it's a little easier to add things to your collection. But the detail on that statue is amazing. And they all, here's the skeleton. They all come out or off of the stand.
The base.
Nice.
Yeah, the base. But yeah, if you guys get a chance to find one, I highly recommend it. It's a cool little addition to the collection, like the ghouls from the Seventh Voyage. So
I'm looking at their website now, and they have a pre-order for Medusa. Oh man, does it look good?
it's a price. It's an investment. It's a arm and a leg, but these are beautiful. And they have all kinds of stuff. They even have the owl from Clash of the Titans.
Oh, that's great.
Bubo?
Yeah, Bubo.
Yeah.
Bubo the owl. And
Wow.
I don't know if he's life size, but he's a good, you could throw him up on your shelf. He'd look cool.
I know some place at one point produced the owl like full size, and like it had mechanical features, like it would move and stuff a few years ago. I don't recall where that came from though.
Stuff and stuff. I'll often text Jeff and I'll be like, in the latest episode of what Larry's buying, crap Larry doesn't need.
Yeah, that's a great website. Looks like they have a really good selection, nice stuff.
Gail and Ray Orwig have been on the show a couple of times, and they one of their books is where monsters walked. They've done one on serials as well. The old serials that would show up, Flash Gordon and the
shooting
Phantom.
locations and stuff.
Shooting locations. And Gail or Ray texted me the other day, and it's like, Ship of Monsters is on this website, and I've always loved the Cyclops from Ship of Monsters. So not a Harryhouse Cyclops, but here's the Cyclops from Ship of Monsters. And if you've never seen Ship of Monsters,
never heard of it.
Oh, it's like a gonzo Mexican film, isn't it?
Yes, thank you, Billy.
Oh, wow.
And it, on the little card that came with this Cyclops, Venus, all the men have died on Venus, and so the women of Venus, there's a team that's selected by their leader, go to different planets to get male specimens to repopulate Venus. And so the Cyclops, his name's Ook, and he's a male. There's another alien with his brain. There's like a spider alien. There's a skeleton alien. And when they come to Earth, they find a gaucho singing gaucho. And so it's this weird mashup of like science fiction and cowboy. And the tagline on the figure says, "Beware, Venus is looking for a penis."
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think I've only ever seen that movie one time, and I don't even think it was in English. So, and I don't make a habit of watching movies that are in a foreign language that I don't understand. But I just thought, okay, I heard of this movie, I'm going to watch it. And I was like, what's happening here? Yeah, Mexican movies are gonzo, man. They're crazy.
It absolutely. I have not found an English dub, so it's subtitled, and the subtitles are fantastic.
That's great.
That's something. Oh.
But I don't know if this is the name of the company. No, SputnikSupplies.com. Alien Bachelor Party. Got the women from Venus and some of the aliens. Why an alien is a Cyclops, I don't know, but Ook had some meaningful dialogue, and his eye, they're able to browse around. And what's cool is that this was a production of Mexico. It's not filmed in the United States and dubbed. No, this is and their spaceship is really cool. There's a robot. If you ever get a chance to watch it, Walkie and you guys out there, highly recommend that film. And thank you, Ray and Gail, for the recommendation as well. The figure is awesome. Well, my friends, I think this brings this Bobless production of Planet 8 recording of Planet 8 podcast to a close. Billy, thanks again for being with us. And Walker, take care of yourself. Those of you out there listening and watching, if you haven't found us on YouTube, please check out our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and comment, and share it with your friends. And also let us know in the comments, what was your favorite scene or part of Jason and the Argonauts, and or your favorite Harryhausen film and or monster overall. We would love to hear from you. You guys take care, be safe. Until next time, live long and prosper.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.